Okay, so today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review for Axiom's End by Lindsay Ellis. This is her debut novel. It is an adult sci-fi following Cora, who really just wants to live her life and not be bothered. Her dad is a well-known whistleblower, and it stirs up a lot of attention for her. She's just trying to stay out of the spotlight and to get people to leave her alone. Enter Ampersand, the main alien that we're following in this book, and he chooses Cora to be his interpreter, and it goes from there. And I think it's important to know going into this that the first half of this book really is, it's a standard first contact government conspiracy story that we've read many times before, or at least that's how it felt to me. I felt like, okay, I've read this book, I've seen this story played out a lot. I know this storyline. And unfortunately, the first half does feel really bland and generic for, just your standard first contact story. That said, I do think that it deviates in the second half and really becomes its own. Lindsay starts to do some stuff that is very unique to her, and I think she does those things very well. I think the main strength, at least for me in this book, the thing that I enjoyed the most was Ampersand, the alien that we are following through Cora. The way his appearance and his movements were described really drew me into the story a lot and made me very interested in him, as well as just his personality, the way he interacted with Cora, the way he questioned her and challenged her, but also had to learn how to appropriately interact with her, I thought was done really well, and I enjoyed learning about him and spending time with him throughout this novel. We also spend a lot of time focusing on alien hierarchy and morality and what first contact with another species would really look like, as well as discussing some deeper topics about morality, humanity, and not shying away from the ugly sides of humanity. I think Lindsay really tried to stir up some discussion in the second half of this book, and I think she did a good job of integrating that and giving us a lot of things to think about, which I appreciated. Lindsay has a very direct writing style. So someone that's new to sci-fi, that doesn't want a lot of technical terminology, someone that wants a book that's really easy to just slide into and go with, this is perfect. Her writing style is really accessible and really easy to read, even in the parts of the book where I really wasn't that interested in what was happening. I never really felt any need to stop reading. I was pretty comfortable picking it back up. I was curious enough to keep going. And I think a lot of that is to do with Ampersand, but also a lot of it is to do with just how accessible and easy her writing was, how very digestible her writing was. However, I have a foible when it comes to writing. I can't stand repetitive writing. When I notice a pattern, when I notice a phrase or a word that is used a lot, it gets so under my skin. And Lindsay is an author that likes to reuse her phrasing a lot. Stuff like Cora's lizard brain, which is a term that I understand and I respect, and I see why she used it. She used it in the correct context, but oh my goodness, the number of times her lizard brain was referred to. In fact, every time Cora panicked, which was often, it was her lizard brain being brought up again. And after the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time, I just wanted a different way to describe how Cora was feeling. And it's not always just phrases like that. Like, for instance, at length was brought up a lot. At length he responded to her. At length she decided to move on. And, at length isn't something that comes up in daily conversation. It's not the way people usually actually talk. And so I noticed it when it kept being used over and over again. And I just want variety in the way something is written. And I know that that is something that will not bother a lot of people, and it's very personal to me. But patterns, when I notice something that's being used over and over again, I die. And Lindsay is a very repetitive writer in her word choices. She'll even a lot of times describe something and then the next paragraph describe it again the same way. And again, most people probably don't care. I just really do. I'll also mention this because I did read several reviews after I finished reading the book just to see what other people were feeling, and a lot of people were bringing up really disliking Cora as a protagonist, which I understand to an extent. She is very angsty and she is more of a passive character. She just kind of wants to live her life, and she's kind of dragged into this situation and dragged along the plot to an extent. She goes along with everything happening. She doesn't forge her own path. She doesn't really have her own dreams and goals and things that she wants to accomplish throughout this novel. She just wants to be left alone, but she can't, so she goes with the motions. She also is very panicky and very impulsive. That's the word I want to use here. She is very impulsive, makes really dumb decisions a lot. Now, for me, Cora really wasn't a character that bothered me at all, because it all worked for her character, and I don't think any of it was actually written poorly at all. A passive character isn't inherently wrong, even though it doesn't generally go over as well as a character that has motivations and dreams. But it wasn't like she just wasn't written well and got flopped around by the plot. I mean, she had a personality. It's just that she wasn't a character that wanted to be doing anything along the lines of what was happening, and she just kind of went with things. She was very impulsive and angsty, but those made sense for her character. So even though sometimes her impulsivity was frustrating, it didn't feel like it was just to make the plot happen. It worked for the character. So even though Cora isn't a character that I love and will be talking about and thinking about for a long time, she didn't bother me, but she does bother a lot of people. So putting that out there. Overall, I did enjoy reading this book. I thought that it was a fun, fast read. I think that Lindsay wrote the aliens very, very well, and she did it uniquely to her own interpretation of them, which I appreciated a lot. Her more philosophical discussions, I think, were integrated well into the book, and I think that they were written well. I enjoyed that part of it. As far as all of the human characters, I wasn't attached to a single one, including Cora. Even though she didn't bother me, I never really became attached to her. I think that the aliens were the most interesting humanoids in the book, as well as the plot being something that is a story that I feel has been told a lot, with a few deviations that are unique to Lindsay, but really not enough deviation for me to be excited to continue on. I do think that the next book is probably going to be significantly more unique, but for the most part, I feel like nothing really got dug in as deep as I wanted it to. I've watched several of Lindsay's videos and I have enjoyed everything that I've seen of hers. I'm not an avid viewer of her stuff. I've probably only seen, a small handful of the videos that she's done, but I've enjoyed what she's written. I mostly just wanted to read this book because I knew that a lot of people would be reading it and I wanted to be in on the discussion. I wanted to be able to talk about it with people, so I read it. And I'm glad I did. It was a fun read. I enjoyed reading it and I'm excited to talk about it with people. For me, I'm giving it 3 stars because I think that it was solid. I think that it was good, but I didn't think that it was anything exciting, amazing, that I'll really be talking about very much. Talking about who I think this book would appeal to. I think that anybody that is relatively new to sci-fi, this would be a great starting point. This is an adult book. I think that this is a book that's easily digestible for people who either read young adult or adult. I think that it's a great crossover book in that way. As well as anyone that isn't an avid reader, just reads books here and there, I think that this is definitely a book that would appeal to the masses. And that's not me talking down on it at all. I think that that's great that it's a book that appeals to the masses. I just think that people that want to dig in deeper, people who have read a lot of sci-fi, read a lot of stories, may be a little bit underwhelmed. Cue the angry comments of people saying, I read a lot of sci-fi and I enjoyed it. I'm not telling anybody what to think. Obviously, I'm just trying to talk about my experience with the book, how I felt about it, and then try to guess at what kind of audience this would best appeal to so that people can have a good idea on if it's something they want to pick up or not if they're on the fence. I definitely don't want to discourage anyone from reading the book. Like I said, I enjoyed reading it and I want Lindsay to have all the success in the world, so I hope that people do love it. But those are my spoiler-free thoughts on Axiom's End. Overall, it was a good experience for me. I wish that it had dug deeper and deviated off of the norm a little bit more. I think that if you enjoyed An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green, you'll probably enjoy Axiom's End. They were very similar, especially in the beginning. Really different as well, but a similar feel a similar concept, but also a completely different someone's gonna be mad at me for comparing the two because they're different types of aliens. It goes down in different ways, but also I saw a lot of similarities. Anyway, I would love to continue talking about this in the comments. If you plan to read this book, if you have already read it and want to talk spoilers with me, just make sure to do the spoiler space thing so that you don't accidentally spoil other people. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.